Welcome to the program. Now, the federal government has commenced the payment of the long-awaited 35,000 naira wage award arrears to its employees, fulfilling a key part of its commitment to support workers amid prevailing economic challenges. This was disclosed in a statement issued in Abuja on Monday by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and signed by the Director of Press and Public Relations, Bawa Mokwa. According to the statement, many federal government employees have already received the first tranche of the payment, while others who are yet to be credited will receive theirs shortly. Nigeria's fulfillment of foreign trade transactions through letters of credit rose by 3.68% year-on-year to $267.96 million in the first 4 months of 2025, up from $258.46 million in the corresponding period of 2023. This was disclosed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in its international payments data published on its website. A letter of credit is a written commitment issued by a bank on behalf of an importer, guaranteeing payment to an exporter once shipment and proper documentation are confirmed. It is commonly used in the importation of visible goods. It is a written undertaking given by a bank at the request of its customer, in which the bank promises in writing to pay the exporter a certain sum within a certain time frame in return for goods, as long as the customer provides the bank with the proper paperwork. This significant decrease highlights the challenges the country faces in its international trade and financial transactions and could have several implications for Nigeria's economy. The chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Zach Adedeji, has stated that President Bola Tinubu is deeply concerned about the welfare of Nigeria's informal sector operators, who represent a significant portion of the country's labor force. Adedeji hosted this during the 157th meeting of the Joint Tax Board, JTB, held in Ibadan, Oyo State, drew attention to the recent data from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, indicating that workers in the informal sector accounted for 92.6% of the total employed population in Nigeria as of the first quarter of 2023. The FIRS chairman, who also chairs the Joint Tax Board, linked the recent drop in Nigeria's unemployment figures to the formal recognition of informal work by the NBS. Based on data gathered from street currency traders and several online rate tracking platforms, the Naira continued to show signs of stability at the beginning of the week, trading at 1,610 Naira per dollar in the parallel market, also known as the black market, on Monday. This represents a slight gain of 5 Naira over the rate of 1,615 Naira per dollar quoted in the same market. Now, how much is it exchanging for other currencies? Let's see. To fully harness the benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is collaborating with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, to secure up to 75% discount on cargo flights from Nigeria to East and Southern Africa through Uganda Airlines.
Nigeria is intensifying efforts to position itself as a leading exporter within the continent. And to achieve this target, The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has unveiled the East and Southern Africa Market Intelligence Tool, a digital platform designed to guide MSMEs towards viable markets. Earlier, the ministry had initiated the Nigeria East-Southern Africa Freight Corridor, easing logistics and reducing trade barriers for local businesses.
We're telling businesses in Nigeria what is in demand in Southern Africa, 13 Southern and Eastern African countries. And we're telling them what the regulatory environment is, what you want, if it's your plantain chips, if it's your zobo, whatever it is, your textiles, your fashion, your wigs, we're telling them who wants what. And we're backing it up with a flat cargo rate that has reduced the cost from 50 to 75%.
Of Nigeria, we launched her AFCFTA, which is basically how women can trade within the context of AFCFTA. And so we kind of encourage women to connect some more.
Nigeria. At the moment, we cover 17 destinations through NTA, and the reason why we came through here is to connect Nigeria through other destinations, through East Africa.
These initiatives represent bold and deliberate steps towards enhancing Nigeria's manufacturing capacity and reinforcing its role in intra-African trade.
Banks in Nigeria have deposited a total of 2.5 trillion naira worth with the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, through the Standing Deposit Facility, SDF, signaling a major step in liquidity management as institutions sought to maximize returns on excess funds amid a dynamic monetary policy environment. The significant inflow into the SDF reflects heightened caution in the interbank market and a strategic preference by banks to park surplus liquidity with the CBN at relatively attractive interest rates. This move comes at a time when system liquidity closed the week in a deficit of 119.9 billion naira, representing a 42.0% decline week on week. The liquidity squeeze was largely attributed to the heavy outflow into the CBN's deposit window, which far exceeded the 949.2 billion naira accessed by banks through the standing lending facility during the same period. The government of Turkey has unveiled plans to boost its bilateral trade volume with Nigeria from the current $1 billion to $5 billion. As part of a broader strategy to strengthen economic relations across Africa. Turkish Deputy Ambassador to Nigeria, Elif Dudu, disclosed the plan during a recent engagement, lamenting that the existing trade volume does not reflect the vast potential between the two nations. She noted that Turkey's trade with the African continent has reached $40 billion as of 2024, with Nigeria identified as a key partner in Ankara's Africa Partnership Policy. Lagos food market delivered a mixed performance in May 2025, with some staple food items witnessing notable price drops, while others surged on the back of seasonal and structural supply constraints amid economic uncertainties. A 50 kg bag of local parboiled rice recorded a sharp decline of 12.96%, now selling for an average of 53,000 naira 750, compared to 61,550 naira in April. Similarly, the price of 5 kg pack of semolina dropped modestly. Also did a kilogram of horse mackerel, offering slight relief to households battling shrinking purchasing power. Let's now take a trip to the commodities market. Now, oil prices on Tuesday eased as market participants weighed the possibility of an OPEC Plus decision to further increase its crude oil output at a meeting later this week. Brent crude futures traded 12 cents to $64.62 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 15 cents at $61.38 a barrel. The Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, has expressed displeasure over the invasion of two of its officers by officials of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, to enforce non-payment of ground rent. Addressing a press conference at the Revenue House in Abuja on Monday, the Director, Facility Management Department of FIRS, Tofa Abege, Special Advisor on Infrastructure, Kunle Ogidi, the media team, Dare Adekambi, Collins Omokaro, and Arabiri Aderonke, demanded an apology from the FCTA officials for the unjustifiable invasion, having acted in error, refuting the allegations that FIRS owed 25-year ground rent on two of its offices at number 12 and 14, Sokode Crescent, Wuse Zone 4, Abuja. Abege said a demand notice from Abuja Geographic Information System dated September 2023 asking for ground rent on the properties was honored with a payment of 2.364 million naira, covering ground rent on the properties for the fiscal year 2000 to 2024. FIRS stressed the need to nurture and strengthen interagency collaboration to avoid future occurrence, while also apologizing to the members of staff and taxpayers who were traumatized during the invasion, and demands apologies from AGIS. The federal government says addressing inaccessibility to uninterrupted power supply over 80 million Nigerians is relatively feasible owing to the huge amount of funds, resources, and commitment being invested in the sector. This was the key point raised during the opening ceremony of the 6th meeting of National Council of Power organized by the Federal Ministry of Power in collaboration with the Borno State government held in Maiduguri.
Just as the theme of the program implies, consolidating reforms for a sustainable energy future in Nigeria, the convergence of critical stakeholders in the power sector here is basically to engage in far-reaching deliberations, suggestions, comments, observations, as well as questions and answers on how best to provide the needed change in the power sector across Nigeria. During different plenary sessions, Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu, represented by his permanent secretary Mahmoud Mamman, expressed concern over the large proportion of Nigerians that are confronted with inaccessibility to uninterrupted power supply, describing the National Council on Power as a game changer in changing the narrative.
At the end of this meeting, we'll come up with meaningful policies and strategies that Nigerians can get electricity. That is our promise, and that is what the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President is, and that is what all of us are here to achieve.
Other key issues outlined include strengthening subnational collaboration, pathways to energy transition and access, maintaining liquidity for sustaining generation companies, as well as bridging capacity and gender gaps in the power sector. Others are safeguarding power infrastructure in high-risk areas, improving grid coordination and operational efficiency, as well as strengthening distribution companies' performance.
Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Olayemi Kadoso is urging the fiscal authorities to provide input for farmers to achieve further price stability. There is growing concern over the future of Nigeria's rice industry, but also a renewed call for action and hope. The Competitive African Rice Forum, Nigeria, is urging the government to step in and protect the progress made over the past 2 decades in building a strong homegrown rice sector. Nigeria's rice volume chain has come a long way from heavy imports dependence to a thriving local industry with over 13 million metric tons of milling capacity installed nationwide. It's a sector that supports over 5 million livelihoods from farms to markets. But recent policy decisions and rising smuggling are said to be putting that progress at risk.
And should try to intervene in order to reverse this trajectory and safeguard the rice industry, not just for economic reasons, but for national resilience and food security in our nation. We believe that, government should be able to protect this particular product and ensure that 5 million people that we've calculated are dependent on this annual throne. I'm calling that they should strengthen the Nigerian Customs Service operations to seal off the key smuggling corridors. The government should create a national rice buffer, stock, and offtake mechanism to stabilize the market prices during the harvest cycles.
Now, Minister of Interior Dr. Olubunmi Tunji Ojo has reiterated his resolve to ensuring national security is not compromised as full compliance with rules guiding e-visa is non-negotiable. He made this emphasis during a stakeholders sensitization on e-visa, landing and exit cards in Lagos.
This is a visa that once applied for, within 48 hours, you get a response, either a yes or no. And of course, it also eradicates the barrier of location. For example, if you're in UK and you don't live in London, you don't need to fly all the way to London to the embassy to go and apply. You can apply in the comfort of your home.
Once you present that QR code and you go into that QR code, like I've traveled all over the world, and this is what pertains. There's no glitch.
The Nigeria Customs Service Federal Operations Unit Zone D has intercepted smuggled items with a duty-paid value worth over 100 million naira. Comptroller of the zone, Abubakar Lawal Umar, while briefing journalists on the recent smuggling operations of the unit, reaffirmed the unwavering commitment of the organization towards suppressing smuggling activities in the zone.
Through intelligence and in terms of patrol. When I came, we have a lot of information about people moving all this kind of stuff, even in small quantities. So we started targeting them, and then we were able to get all these ones. We have a lot of people bringing in things from other places to this zone, but we are trying to curtail that as much as we can.
The Nigerian equities market began the week bullish on Monday as investors gained 540 billion naira at the close of trading. The benchmark all-share index ASI increased to 109,884.92 points from 109,028.62 points, which were recorded the previous trading day. After 5 hours of trading at the capital markets, the equity capitalization surged to 69.291 trillion naira from the 68.751 trillion naira recorded last Friday. The market breadth was positive as 33 stocks advanced, 31 stocks declined, and 66 stocks remained unchanged in 19,755 deals. Well, this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback. So keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns on Wednesday at 3 p.m. I am Neka Oko saying, keep thinking and doing business.